the development of much more real maturity and balance, which is to say humility, in our relations with ourselves, with our fellows, and with God. Those adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security, and perfect romance, urges quite appropriate to age 17, prove to be an impossible way of life when we are at age 47 or 57. Since AA began, I've taken immense wallops in all these areas because of my failure to grow up emotionally and spiritually. My God, how painful it is to keep demanding the impossible, and how very painful to discover, finally, that all along we've had the cart before the horse. Then comes the final agony of seeing how awfully wrong we have been, but still finding ourselves unable to get off the emotional merry-go-round. How to translate a right mental conviction into a right emotional result, and so into easy, happy, and good living. Well, that's not only the neurotic's problem, it's the problem of life itself for all of us who have got to the point of real willingness to hew to right principles in all our affairs. Even then, as we hew away, peace and joy may still elude us. That's the place so many of us AA oldsters have come to, and it's a hell of a spot, literally. How shall our unconscious, from which so many of our fears, compulsions, and phony aspirations still stream, be brought into line with what we actually believe, know, and want? How to convince our dumb, raging, and hidden Mr. Hyde becomes our main task. I've recently come to believe that this can be achieved. I believe so because I begin to see many benighted ones, folks like you and me, commencing to get results. Last autumn, depression, having no real rational cause at all, almost took me to the cleaners. I began to be scared that I was in for another long chronic spell. Considering the grief I've had with depression, it wasn't a bright prospect. I kept asking myself, why can't the 12 steps work to release depression? By the hour, I stared at the St. Francis prayer. It's better to comfort than to be comforted. Here was the formula, all right, but why didn't it work? Suddenly, I realized what the matter was. My basic flaw had always been dependence, almost absolute dependence, on people, on circumstances to supply me with prestige, security, and the like. Failing to get these things according to my perfectionist dreams and specifications, I had fought for them. And when defeat came, so did my depression. There wasn't a chance of making the outgoing love of St. Francis a workable and joyous way of life until these fatal and almost absolute dependencies were cut away. Because I had, over the years, undergone a little spiritual development, the absolute quality of these frightful dependencies had never before been so starkly revealed. Reinforced by what grace I could secure in prayer, I found I had to exert every ounce of will and action to cut off these faulty emotional dependencies upon people, upon AA, indeed upon any set of circumstances whatsoever. Then only could I be free to love as Francis had. Emotional and instinctual satisfactions, I saw, were really the extra dividends of having love, offering love, and expressing a love appropriate to each relation of life. Plainly, I could not avail myself of God's love until I was able to offer it back to Him by loving others as He would have me. And I couldn't possibly do that so long as I was victimized by false dependencies. For my dependency meant demand, a demand for the possession and control of people, of the conditions, and the conditions surrounding me. While those words, absolute dependency, may look like a gimmick, they were the one that helped to trigger my release into my present degree of stability and quietness of mind, qualities which I am now trying to consolidate by offering love to others, regardless of the return to me. This seems to be the primary healing circuit, an outgoing love of God's creation and His people, by means of which we avail ourselves of His love for us. It is most clear that the real current can't flow until our paralyzing dependencies are broken and broken at depth. Only then can we possibly have a glimmer of what adult love really is. Spiritual calculus, you say? Not a bit of it. Watch any AA of 6 months working with a new 12th step case. If the case says, "To the devil with you," the 12th stepper only smiles and turns to another case. He doesn't feel frustrated or rejected. If his next case responds and in turn starts to give love and attention to other alcoholics, yet gives none back to him, the sponsor is happy about it anyway. He still doesn't feel rejected. Instead, he rejoices that his one-time prospect is sober and happy. And if his next following case turns out in later time to be his best friend or romance, then the sponsor is most joyful.
Some people think that line's weird, but that's okay. It's not. No big deal.
Where am I? The sponsor is happy about it anyway. He still doesn't feel rigid. Oh, yeah, we got past the romance bit. Then the sponsor is most joyful. But he well knows that this happiness is a byproduct, the extra dividend of giving without any demand for a return. The really stabilizing thing for him was having and offering love to that strange drunk on his doorstep. That was Francis at work, powerful and practical, minus dependency and minus demand. In the first 6 months of my own sobriety, I worked hard with many alcoholics. Not a one responded. Yet this work kept me sober. It wasn't a question of those alcoholics giving me anything. My stability came out of trying to give, not out of demanding that I receive. Thus, I think it can work out with emotional sobriety. If we examine every disturbance we have, great or small, we will find at the root of it some unhealthy dependency and its consequent unhealthy demand. Let us, with God's help, continually surrender these hobbling demands. Then we can be set free to live and love. We may then be able to 12th step ourselves and others into emotional sobriety. Of course, I haven't offered you a really new idea, only a gimmick that has started to unhook several of my own hexes at depth. Nowadays, my brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. I've been given a quiet place in bright sunshine.
All right. Hey, I think that maybe Bill put that romance thing in there just to see if everybody was listening. You know what I mean? Like probably just to so it's probably just like, oh, best friend or romance, just seeing if you're listening. It's no big deal if you sponsor your romance. Is it, Juanita? Hey, I sponsor my wife. Anyway, so tonight we have a very special guest who's near and dear to me, brings me that sense of warmth and comfort. We've had a crazy year, a real crazy year, and I have it, and I'm really excited to hear from you. And just, Juanita, I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Hey, Sam, thank you. My name is Juanita, and I am a very grateful member of the Worldwide Fellowship of Al-Anon. I really am grateful because I'll tell you, I cannot imagine living life without the principles of my fellowship, without the principles that my fellowship, Al-Anon, received from Alcoholics Anonymous. I cannot imagine it. Me on my own, without these principles, well, Bill it writes in the book, Alcoholics Anonymous, an alcoholic is in his cups is an unlovely creature. I got to tell you, an obsessive controlling family member such as myself, in my cups, in full flight from reality, in full flight from just denial of life and completely obsessed with people, situations. It's not a pretty picture. It is absolutely horrible. And the worst part of it is you may not even know it, because on the outside, everything looks okay, but inside, oh my God, you ought to see the tornado going on within me. It is just unbelievable. And I can still do that today. I walked into my first Al-Anon meeting July 2nd of 1986. So I'm coming up on 35 years, and I really cannot believe it. I remember at one time I thought, you know, the longer I'm in this program, the better I'm going to be. And the day may come, and it probably will be like in 4 years, that I'm not going to need it at all. And I'll just be able to just go on my way and just, you know, say thank you and just move through my life. And what has happened is the longer I'm in this fellowship, the more I see those areas where I have still do not have God involved in, you know? And I often talk to people who say, but after all this time, I should be better. After all this time, I shouldn't be doing this. After all this time, I shouldn't feel like this. After all this time, almost 35 years, I still have those moments. In fact, the last couple of days have been a real treat. If you were in my house watching me the last couple of days, you would have gone, and why in the world did Sam ask her to do this thing on emotional sobriety? Because I was furious. Tom and I, we got to Nashville a week ago, tomorrow, and we were at our daughter's house, which was fine. It was a great time there. We rent our house when we're not in Nashville, and I walked into my house yesterday. Was it yesterday? On Tuesday. And I was not happy. I was not a happy camper. You know, they didn't clean it the way I thought it should be cleaned. The property management company has cleaners. They didn't clean it the way I thought it should be cleaned. I was nothing is put in my cabinets the way it ought to be. You know, everything is in different place. That throws me completely. I just don't get it. I just don't get how people's minds don't work the way my mind works. I mean, things have a place and they make total sense, and I don't get what they're thinking. My cast iron pan, I washed it really good. This is probably I'm trying not to exaggerate, so this will probably be the third, maybe fourth time that I have to season it again because they have not taken good care of my cast iron pan. If you cook, you know about cast iron pans. I mean, it's just like, you got to do it right. And I was going, and I found mice turds in my dish towel drawer. And it's like, what in the world? I mean, and I could just go on and on and on. And my neighbors killed some of my plants. They were trying to get rid of some of the ivy that was growing on their wall. My plants along my driveway, half of them are dead. I worked last year during this whole pandemic because what else was I going to do? I was going to work in my garden. They're dead. And so I was not happy. I was absolutely furious. I was better yesterday. Today I was definitely better. And I don't know about you guys, but you ever tried to meditate when you're like this? I have a hard time meditating when I'm in this state because there's no connection to God. Do I even want a connection to God? Because I'll tell you, sometimes I just want to be angry. I just want to be pissed off. I just want to be angry. I have a friend who says, just rub it all over your body, you know, and it's just bring it on. You know, there's something that is so satisfying about that. And one thing that I know about myself and anger is that I prefer anger. Anger has always been my go-to to avoid feeling pain, to avoid feeling sadness, to avoid feeling fear. So anger works great. And there's this sense of incredible power when I'm angry. Incredible power. I used that during the whole time when Tom was drinking and using. It's like I'd be angry. I could clean the house spotlessly in no time. And I mean, every little, and if you're not a family member, you might not get this, but I do know that some alcoholics on here definitely grew up affected by somebody's drinking, and you probably will get it, but it's like, there's just something about that anger that just has a charge that just kind of feeds me and moves me. And what happens when I'm like this, and it seems to be without fail, I get these calls from people. Some of them are people I sponsor. Some are calls that we've set up. Some are calls that we hadn't planned on. And then people I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know who these people are, and they're calling me. And my first thing is, I don't want to pick up the phone. I don't want to pick up the phone because I don't want to have to give my time, step away from my anger, from my emotions, from my self-righteousness, to give my time to you. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I just want to feed the beast. I just want to feed the beast. And without fail, these calls come over and over and over. And what happens is that my spirit begins, my body begins to breathe. My heartbeat begins to slow down. My mind begins to slow. And what it is that it is spirit, it is God that has brought these people into my life at a time when I've got no control over myself. And I know it. And I know it. And it's not like I'm not praying, because I will tell you, I'm praying. I'm praying when I'm like this. I'm praying because I want it to end. I'm praying because I don't want to behave like this. And I'm praying because I don't want to cause harm to anybody. I've been there and I've done that, and I've caused harm when I'm in this state of mind. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So when Sam asked me if I would do this, I was like, yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. I think, I can't remember what day you called me, but I'm like, I only know how to tell the truth and how to tell what's going on with me. And I didn't want to have to tell this. I didn't want to have to share with you that, what is it, a week and a half shy of 35 years, I'm a raging lunatic, and my house not being up to the standards that I think they should be has just thrown me off the beam. Thrown me off the beam. So, of course, I called my sponsor a few days later, today. And I'm telling her what's going on because, I make all sorts of excuses why she shouldn't have to take a call from me. First of all, she's visiting a good friend and she hasn't seen in a long time. And in fact, you guys know Jackie, Mary Thayer is visiting Jackie and out in Oregon, And so I don't want to intrude into their time. And it's not until I know, it's kind of like with God and my sponsor. It's not until I get to that place where I absolutely cannot stand me, and I can't stand the separation I have between myself and other people, which is separation between me and God. And I go, okay. Clearly, I can't pray my way into right thinking here. And I'm certainly not acting my way into right thinking because I've been trying to do it. It's not happening. So, okay, I'll call my sponsor, and so it was like 7:00 there and I'm on the phone with her, and, it just takes what it takes. I am stubborn. I am so incredibly stubborn. I am so willful. I want to do this myself. And so we talked about the house, and she goes, okay, so what's really going on? That's the thing about a sponsor. When you really use them, they know you. My sponsor knows me. And I will tell you, it's taken a long time for me to use her. And I'm not saying like I'm just starting to use her, no, but she's been my sponsor for like 30 years. And I didn't really use her for the first, I'd say 5 years, a little bit more into the next 5 years. When I asked her to sponsor me, she had been Tom's sponsor, and I asked her to sponsor me. And she said, well, you have to ask him. And so reluctantly, I don't think I have to ask Tom for anything. I think I ought to just, get whatever I want. It's like demand, like the letter said. I demand. I don't want to ask. I think I should just not even demand. It should just be given to me on a silver platter. But, so I asked, and he said he had to think about it, which I didn't like. And he finally said reluctantly, yes, if I had to do it, I could use her. And I used her, and then it was probably not very long after. And what happened was about a week later, our daughter, who was then 12, attempted suicide. And Mary Thayer sat us down and told us that there was going to be some real grief coming up with this. The grief that even though she hadn't committed suicide, the grief that she even attempted it. She said, your belief structures regarding your family and your daughter and how well she's doing and how family ought to look like once you're in recovery. She says, those belief structures have been shattered. And that's exactly what had happened. And she told us how to deal with it. She says, turn to page 118 in the big book where it says in the chapter to the wise, it should be the pleasure of either when in a heated discussion, I'm paraphrasing, to turn to the other and say, it's getting heated. I think we should stop and we'll discuss it later. And we found ourselves right in that position, probably I'd say maybe 4 years into this program, 4 or 5 years into this, And what had happened was, we took our daughter into the adolescent, she got placed into the adolescent psych unit. And they said, we did intense therapy with her, and she did intense therapy. And one of the first meetings that we had with her counselor the counselor asked her, do you believe your parents love you? And she got very quiet. It took her a while to answer. And then finally she said, yeah, now I do. And it blew me away that she had to think about it, And the truth is that we weren't being parents. We weren't being the parents that we needed to be. We had become lovers. We had become friends. We become husband and wives, but we'd become sponsors, and we were in the program doing the deal, man. I mean, we were doing it, but we were not being the parents that God would have us be, She was forgotten. Our kids were forgotten. And she reminded me not too long ago, she said, Mom, she says, do you remember when you said to me that I had to go to Alateen because if I didn't go to Alateen, I couldn't be part of a family in recovery because I would be very sick. And I vaguely remembered that. I can't remember how I phrased it. I'd like to think that I didn't phrase it like that, but I remember something like that, And so can you imagine what she must have felt like as a kid? I mean, you talk about demands on someone, on a child who's clueless. So we weren't the parents that God would have had us be, It's taken a long time to learn how to be the parent that God would have me be. She now has a child of her own, and she's an incredible parent. All our kids are incredible parents. They really are. There's a lot of stuff of what they do in parenting that I don't agree with, but, I think they're doing a heck of a lot better than what I did, so there's that. There's been some tough times. This year has been tough. I think I spoke on this right about a year ago, Sam. And the whole pandemic thing was not that hard for me. And it wasn't that hard for me because I am an introvert. I have no problem being by myself. I started gardening, I started cooking, I did more knitting. I did a lot of walking. I did a whole lot of stuff and stayed busy. And that's what I do. There's a phrase in the program that says, we need to learn how to become human beings, not human doers. I do. I'm a doer. I do, and I do, and I do. And as long as I'm doing, I don't have to think, I don't have to feel, I don't have to pay attention. I can go away. And so that's what I did. So really, the last year wasn't too bad for me. I'm not saying it was great. I'm saying it wasn't too bad. So here we are. And people are out and about, not wearing masks. Sometimes I don't wear a mask. Sometimes I walk into a store, or I'm about to walk into a store, and I get this thing of, you need to put on your mask. You know, you didn't wear this one, you got to put it in, put on your. So I take those little intuitive things and I run with it, and I put my mask on and I do the deal and I come back. And I'm the kind of person that in the crisis, I'm amazing. That's what I do. I do chaos. I do crisis. I do really well. I know how to direct traffic. I know how to move through that. It's when all of a sudden everything gets quiet and the stress is off, that all of a sudden, I don't like that. I don't like that. And that's when the wheels fall off of me, you know? And I've had the hard things with this year have not been with the pandemic. They've been with family. You know, I have a daughter who was in an accident. Let me call it what it is. She was assaulted December 2019, a few days before Christmas. She'd gone in to get some things, got in her car, started her car, had not locked her door. She's typically the kind of person who locks her door all the time. She didn't lock her door. And a guy she'd seen in that store came out and forced the door open and got in and was trying to sexually assault her. As a result, the car was started. The car was backed up into a vehicle. It hit a vehicle behind her. Then it moved forward. It hit another vehicle going forward. It nearly ran over a couple of people. Literally, I mean, there were guys who were rolling out of the car's way to not be run over. One of the cars it hit was a guy who had his baby. He just strapped the baby into his car seat. And what's happened is that she has severe brain damage from the back and forth of the car. And she's dealing with that. She's getting a little bit better. You know, those are the kinds of things that I don't want to think about. I don't want to think about my kid. She's an incredible attorney. She's one of the top attorneys in New Mexico. She does guardian ad litem work. And she was not able to do the work that she could do because she couldn't think right. She just couldn't think right. She couldn't process correctly. And she's still coming out of it. So what that's meant is that she's had to take some time off and slow down at work. And this is my type A plus, you know, to the 10th degree kid, you know, and she's like the goer. She's the achiever. She's the one who's always busy and is so incredibly successful. And she doesn't have the ability to do what she's always done. So one of the things she's been doing in the last few months is that she started gardening, you know, and which I love because that's what I did last year here in Nashville. And I went back home and I did that at home. So she asked me a couple of weeks before we came here if I would help her put flowers in her garden. Oh man, honey, absolutely I will. So we did that. We had a day of doing that. It was really fun. It was great. It was wonderful to see her do this because I hadn't seen her in this kind of frame of mind and emotional state in a long time. It really touched me. And I usually have my cleaning lady come to our house in Santa Fe and water my plants and when we're gone, and she kind of checks the house around. And I was telling my daughter that I hadn't done it yet, and she says, "Oh, Mom, those flowers are beautiful in your sunroom." And she says, "I'd go get those." And I said, "Do you want them?" And she says, "Yeah." So she and my grandson went and got my flowers from the sunroom a couple of days ago, and she said, "I don't know where I'm going to put them." And because of the brain damage and because she's just learning how to like nurture plants. I mean, she's been such a busy person and doing that nurturing is a hard thing for her to do. So I was telling one of my sponsees about it, and they said, "Well, she might kill your plants." And I thought, yeah, she might kill my plants. I can always get new plants. I don't care about my plants. I care about my kid. I care about my kid. Plants, I can grow plants no matter what. Half those plants I started last October, that doesn't matter. I'm concerned about her spirit. I'm concerned about her heart. I'm concerned about her ability to find happiness, a new way of living without our program. Because none of my kids want this program. They want nothing to do with it. They love that we're in the program. They love it. They're so happy that we're in, but they don't want anything to do with it. However, they do call us when they got problems, and you know what they get? They get program. They get program stuff all the time. So I wanted to find a new happiness, a new way of functioning, the brain is incredible. The brain has ways of opening up new pathways from what the ruts are that have been ingrained. So she's beginning to learn this. And what is it that we do in this program because of these principles, because of these 12 steps, if not getting our brain to go through new pathways? That's what this is all about. It is rare, so rare anymore that I have days like what I had like the last couple of days. I don't have that. That's not my usual day. That's not my usual attitude. That's not my usual, anger's not my usual behavior. I've gone through some stuff this year that I'll tell you. I had an opportunity to get very, very angry and didn't go there. That didn't mean I wasn't angry. I didn't use anger, is what I'm saying, to cover up fear and to cover up sadness. I had someone ask me, how did I get through some of the stuff that I got through, the painful stuff that I got through this year? And I thought for a minute and I said, I felt it. I felt it. I just sat and felt it. I didn't run from the pain. I didn't run from fear. I felt it. But because we're human beings, because I'm a human being, there's those moments when all of a sudden it creeps up. Bill said in the big book, there are those times when we have absolutely no defense. For the alcoholic, it's about that first drink. For a family member such as me, it's about that first obsessive thought. I grab hold of that first obsessive thought and I run with it. I run with it. And it doesn't leave. And it takes over. It just takes over. And what ends up happening when I do that is that it becomes somebody else's fault. I blame, I criticize, and I become self-righteous, full of self-pity, and there's no room for God, no room for God. I'm a slow learner because for years I was hesitant to use my sponsor. For years, I would do big book step workshops in my house that would last from start to finish, you know, from the foreword, from the preface, through the forewords, the doctor's opinion, through the last of the 100 and whatever, 60 some pages of the book. And I would talk to my sponsor during the year, but I did not talk to her that much. That group, those groups that I do, I held myself accountable to those people. They're the ones who knew what I was up to. They're the ones who knew what was going on and what I was doing. But it wasn't my sponsor. And what happened when I started using my sponsor, really using her, I started to change unbelievably. You see, because the problem with that group, as great as they were, some of them were my sponsees, some of them were longtime members of AA, you know, nothing wrong with them. But they couldn't hold me accountable. And it wasn't their job to hold me accountable. It's my sponsor's job to hold me accountable. When I go to them or I go to somebody who doesn't know me very well, I get excused. I get excused. I was at a meeting before this whole pandemic started, still in Santa Fe. And I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened. And you know, I feel like a real jerk telling this story because I don't want to. I'm gonna tell it. It was shortly we were getting about 2 years ago. We're getting ready to leave, and we're gonna go to a wedding and my nephew's wedding in Connecticut, and then we're going to go to Australia for 6 weeks. And we'd been in Nashville a couple of months before, and Tom had had to go to the emergency room, and they gave him some instructions to do, and they told him what he had to do, some medical procedures. And we got to Santa Fe, and he was having a hard time scheduling them. And then finally, just before we're getting ready to leave, he got him scheduled. And he said, Juana, you know, I've got this going on, and can you take me? And I said, nah, I can't take you. I can't take you. And the excuse I used was this: I have a haircut appointment. Do you know how important it is to get a haircut? I said, I got to go get this haircut appointment. I can't take you. And he goes, really? I said, no. I said, why don't you call so-and-so or call this? The truth is, I was pissed at him because he did not take care of his medical appointments as soon as we got to Santa Fe. I thought he should have done it because I'm right and he should follow it exactly the way he's supposed to. I held it against him and I was not going to take him. And so I thought about this and I went to a meeting and I, called this gal in the meeting and I told her what was going on. And I said, man, and she goes, oh, well, she said, you know what we say in the program, just because it's your fire doesn't mean I have to, just because it's your emergency doesn't mean it has to become mine. It might be a fire for you now. That doesn't mean it's my fire. And it all sounded good. It all had that, what does Bill say in the big book? That certain plausibility, right? That certain plausibility. And it made sense. And I said, yeah, thanks. And so I left the conversation and I'm thinking about it and I'm good. I'm good for about 20 minutes and I'm thinking about it some more. And I thought, that ain't cool. That's not cool, Juana. And so I called MT And I told her what was up. And she says, you already know the answer. I said, I know. And she says, what job is it for you to teach him a lesson? Who made you God in teaching him a lesson? And I said, I know. She goes, I know you know. Why do you have to do this? Because I want to be right. Because he should get it. Maybe next time he'll do it in time so that I don't have to worry. Because then that's the bottom line. I don't want to worry. I don't want to worry. I don't want to be in fear. So now he's got to pay the price. And the truth is, we all pay the price. I didn't like my behavior. I didn't like what I did to him. That was not okay. It wasn't about the haircut. Haircut didn't matter. It was about teaching him a lesson. And that is Al-Anon 101. It's not my job to teach anybody a lesson. It's not my job to make anybody do anything. Unhealthy dependencies, unhealthy demands. I'll tell you, the family member, the alcoholic ain't got nothing on us. We demand stuff from you all the time. We demand you to be sober when you can't. We demand you to do what we want you to do when we want you to do it. Exactly when we want you to do it. Unhealthy demands. Unhealthy expectations. How many times in my 4th step have I written down unrealistic expectations of other people? This emotional sobriety stuff is really difficult. It is so difficult. And I know I'm better than I ever was. I am so much better. If it wasn't for this program and these 12 steps and my sponsees and those people who call me, I can't imagine. I have no tools for living. These 12 steps, its principles, this book are my 12 steps for living. They're my guide. I've recently started another big book workshop on Zoom. I did one with some Australians, some friends last summer, and I started up another one on Zoom, and it's a small group, and I absolutely love it. I love this group that we're doing. I love every group that I've ever done because we become this tight little group. You know, we really do. We really get to know each other, and there's everybody connects in different ways, and while I do the reading and I do the bulk of the talking, I'm not the only one who carries the message. Everyone has an opportunity to share and to speak and to talk. And it's been wonderful watching some of these people become aware of powerlessness as a family member over alcohol. We often say in Al-Anon, we're powerless over people, places, and things. Yeah. We all are. But first and foremost, I have to come to a place where I can admit, I have to recognize, and I have to be willing to admit I'm powerless over alcohol. And if it wasn't for the fact that I'm powerless over alcohol, all this other stuff that I put through the steps, it wouldn't be necessary. Not for me. But I've watched myself have to deal with my daughter and her illness and accept where she's at. I've had to come through this, if it wasn't for this program, I couldn't have walked with my parents through the last years of their life. I couldn't have. And I can't say that I did it perfectly. It was hard. There's hard stuff in this program. I had 2 sponsees this year whose parents died. You know, one whose mom died, you know, just before Christmas, and another one whose mom died just a few months ago, and her dad just died a couple of weeks ago. There's hard stuff. It's hard. It's hard enough doing it with this program, and knowing that we support each other. Without it, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it would be like, you know? I have this thing from an inventory I did quite some time ago. And it's, what would God have me be? And what I've written here is, God would have me be trusting in God. If I'm trusting in God, what would I be doing? I'd be praying, I'd be going to God. I'd be asking for help in all things. I'd be loving. I'd have an open heart. If I have an open heart, I'd be vulnerable, wide open. I'd be honest. Just be myself, accepting. That's one of the hardest. Accepting of what? Accepting of other people, accepting of reality, accepting of where I am. Authentic, courageous, open, compassionate, wandering, grateful. All those things, I don't even have the power to be them. I've got to pray and ask God to give me the ability to do them, because on my own, I don't have them. I just on my own do not have that ability to pull those off. I need God more than I ever did before. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I was with this big book group that I'm taking through the steps, and we were reading page, we were just wrapping up with Bill's story. And what I do with him with Bill's story is I ask him, put your story into Bill's, you know, the highs and the lows you have, your highs and lows of the family disease of alcoholism. Put it into Bill's story. Have you felt as hopeless and desperate as Bill has? Have you raised up your hopes and just watched you as the family member dash everything? Your hopes and your dreams about your family, your work, your life, and you yourself dashed them to bits by these senseless sprees of obsession, controlling, managing, mothering, martyring, manipulating. And are you willing to do the things Bill did to get well? And then at the very end, on page 16 of Bill's story, it says, most of us feel we need look no further for utopia. We have it with us right here and now. And when we read that, I thought, oh my God. And it's what I believe, which is we have heaven on earth or hell on earth. It's what I make of it. Am I going to have heaven on earth? Or am I going to have hell on earth? I want heaven on earth. When we were still in New Mexico, before we came here, I started this project in our yard. And it's funny because it's kind of like in the place where our old trailer used to be. We raised 4 kids for 16 years, 15 years, I can't remember exactly, in this 2-bedroom, 2-bath trailer. And where I started this plant project is right about where that trailer was. And so I started last fall. I planted these plants. I mean, I took good care of them. I got the soil ready. And then this spring, some of them didn't make it, you know, and then these bugs. And so I got more flowers and, you know, replaced them and little by little, this place got bigger and bigger and bigger, and more plants and more plants. And, you know, it was just, and then all of a sudden, I'll be darned if I was digging down and I was trying to weed them, and I'll be darned if there weren't these like little squirmy white things that were in there. And I thought they're eating my plants, and they're eating from the bottom and they're eating from the top. And then we've got these gophers that we're fighting, and they're everywhere. And you have to fight the gopher holes. And I was just pissed. And some of my plants were dying again. And I'd had it this one day. I'd had it. It's like I walked in the room and I said, I put up the good fight, man. I'm done. I'm done. Why did I ever bother starting this project? It's been a waste of my time. It's been a waste of money. Why did I bother? And I went and jumped in the shower, and I'm in the shower and I'm thinking, why did I bother? And then I started to laugh because I thought, that's how you feel right now. That's just how you feel right now. You feel frustrated. You feel down. That's just right now. It's going to be different. In 30 minutes, it's already getting different. In an hour, it's going to be different. Tomorrow, it's going to be different. Tomorrow's a whole new day. And darned if I didn't sign on to emotional sobriety that night. And it was Cliff from Oklahoma who was talking. And he's talking about a different thing, but it's the same stuff. I want to give up right now because it's not going, and I don't want to bother. I want it to be easy. I want everything to be easy. I want meditation to be easy. I want life to be easy. I don't want any struggles. I'm lazy, and I don't want to have to put the effort into this. Next day, I was out doing more stuff, replacing the flowers and going to the nursery and saying, what do I need to do this? And, you know, it's like, and then I said to Tom, I said, and I want to put flagstone out there, Tom. Tom says, you want to put flagstone out there? I said, yeah. I said, and then that was it. And so a couple of weeks later, I said, do you think you can help me get the flagstone? Can we take Big Blue truck? He's got this big blue old Chevy truck. And I said, can we take Big Blue and can we go get flagstone? He goes, yeah. So we go and get flagstone, and he goes, well, is this going to be hard? He bought me this special chipping hammer to break the flagstone. I gave it a couple of shots, and it wasn't breaking for nothing. Nothing was breaking. So I thought, what am I going to do? God, what are we going to do? What am I going to do, God? I got this flagstone. And immediately the mindset starts in again. You shouldn't have bothered. You've wasted your money. This was really expensive. These flagstone pieces, they're huge. It's beyond your capabilities. It's like you've really done it. Now you're in it. Now you should have just called somebody. Better yet, you shouldn't have even started it. And so I said, God, what are we going to do? And God said, get a rock. Get a big rock. So I go and I get this big rock. Okay, got the big rock. What do? Drop it on the flagstone. Drop down the flagstone. Didn't do anything. Dropped it again. A piece broke. I was so excited. I went and I put that piece in place. Brought the rock back. Broke some more flagstone. Kept going and kept going and kept going. Did that whole load of flagstone. Laid all that flagstone. Then I said to Tom, I need more flagstone. So we went and got more flagstone. A couple of days before we came back to Nashville, I had that flagstone laid. And I'll tell you, it's looking good. I need more flagstone. But that's when we go back. When we go back to New Mexico, I'll lay more flagstone. Some of those may die. I don't care. I'll tell you, my daughter went to pick up those plants from my sunroom a couple of days ago. She sent me pictures of my flowers back home. They look amazing. They look fantastic. They're ready for more flagstone when I show up. So what do? We chip away. I just chip away. You know, sometimes those flagstones break easy. I just kept chipping away. I keep looking. Sometimes my plants need more work, you know? I had this thought that when that whole thing happened with my plants, that I saw these bugs and I was just like, it's hopeless, man. Just give it up. Who needs this stuff? Don't bother. And the next day when I was out there and I was replacing some of those plants, I thought, what if these bugs are here just to keep you outside? Just to keep you outside, to keep you occupied, to keep your hands in the ground, to keep your fingers working. Because I love it. I love doing that. I love pulling weeds. You know what happens when you pull weeds and you finish pulling weeds? You have to start back up again, and you have to pull up from the very beginning, and you pull more weeds. What do we do with this step work? You go through the step work, you get to step 12, you have a spiritual awakening. What do you do again? You go through them again, because more stuff's happening. It never ends. This emotional maturity, will we ever succeed? Will I ever succeed? Will I ever reach emotional maturity? I don't think so, man. But I'll tell you, I'm growing. I'm doing better. I'm just doing better, little by little. And some days, the wheels totally fall off. Totally fall off. That's okay. I got you guys to bring me back. I get the phone calls, which I don't want, and I have to talk to you. And my heart opens, and God comes in, and you come in. And before I know it, I'm okay. I'm okay for now. And then it's going to hit again. But I'm not waiting for it to hit again. I'll just enjoy it. I enjoy it. I don't have to look further for utopia. I can have utopia cleaning my house. I can have utopia with my fingers in the dirt. I can have utopia sitting in my home. I can have utopia walking down the street. I can have utopia anytime because I have utopia. It's right here, right now. I don't have to look any further for it at all. And it's because of you guys. It's because of those 12 steps and the God that it led me to. A God who just says, that's okay, sweetie. You just keep on bitching and moaning and complaining and getting angry. And because I know it's going to break just like the storm. And here I am. And, you know, you're going to face the fear, face the sadness, face whatever feelings are coming up. Because I know you're running because you don't like them. And that's okay. And I'll be here. And always is. Always is. Emotional sobriety? I don't know. I don't know. But I'll keep shooting for it because we claim spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. Thanks, Sam.
Oh man, that was really beautiful. It reminds me of this story. One time my wife and I were, about that anger and just wanting to rub that anger all over you. My wife and I, at the time, had gotten in this nasty tiff, and we were in the car and we had our little daughter back there. It wasn't bad. We were just trying to, we were keeping it appropriate, but we were just irritated as hell about something. I don't remember what it was. Oh, she was pissed because we were going to a pool date with some friends, and I ran into the mall to get a bathing suit, and I'd taken too long, and Hallie was crying in the car, and she's like, geez, what happened with you? And I was feeling kind of insecure because I kind of got fat, in the bathing. Anyway, so we got in this tiff, and we're riding in the car, and I'm just one of those things where you're just so pissed, you don't want to apologize about it. You don't want to apologize to anybody for anything. That promptly isn't happening, and we're just sitting down, and I'm riding in the car, and I get this phone call, and it's dead quiet. And then I get this phone call, and she goes, "What are you gonna?" She gave me that look, like, "You gonna answer that?" And I answered it, and it was this guy, a sponsor, and he goes, "Hey man, I'm in this huge fight with my wife right now, and I'm so pissed." Blah 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 blah. And then I kind of went, "Well, love and tolerance is our code." And I said, the book says promptly admit when we're wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's so funny how that works out. Let's pick on a couple people. You know how we do this. Find two or three people you want to share, and then we'll open it up.
Hmm. Give me a second. I'm no good at this, man. This is like I just get, it's like too many people on there. But you know who I never hear talk on here and is on here quite often? John H.
John H, come on with it. I call him John H all the time. It's the nights that you guys are off. John H is the
No, I knew it. I was like, if I get on here for some reason, she's gonna call on me. Thank you so very much. And I just love you, Juanita. And I just came down from the mountains, so my ears aren't right yet. And it's been a good couple of days. But I heard you say do. And my list is never a to-do list. It's do. And I do all these things to make my life easier. And then when things get easier, I don't know what the hell to do. So I make another do. And I've really gotten caught up in that lately, especially, I thought COVID would be over and I would get some sort of exhale out of that. A lot of stuff, especially in the program, has changed for me through COVID. And I am like a brick wall right now, and I'm getting bombarded with things, and it's raining outside right now. And I just came down from the mountains, and I'm at 2 farmers markets are going. And I feel like I got to run out of here right now and pick up those tents and tell those people what to do, because they're totally going to screw it up. But what am I going to do? I'm going to go there and, they're going to ask me what to do. And then all of a sudden I'm responsible. I have totally capable people doing it. And I was like, Juanita's on tonight. Go home. So thank you for giving me some space here. But I recently had to do this exercise. I'm taking a class in speaking, and the woman, I thought she was just going to teach me how to give a talk, right? And she is digging deep into me, and I'm like, and I'm playing along because I've been doing the steps and I've been in AA, and she's not. And she asked me to go ask 3 people, 5 words that I am. And I wound up asking like 9. And I come back and I give her all the words, and she condenses them down to 5. And she's made me hang them up around my house. And I'm supposed to memorize them because they're my essence, but I do not believe them. Like, I see them on the wall and I want to look away, and they're on my mirror. She's like, put them on your mirror. I'm like, no problem. I never look in the mirror. I can hang that on my mirror, no problem. But I know that they're true, but the acceptance of them is not who my brain thinks I am. And I got to remember, I'm not my brain. I'm the smaller voice of my heart. And in this getting sober, I'm about to get to, I just celebrated 10 years, and so I am as best as I've ever been, but I don't feel like it. And I forgot how much worse that I used to feel. And when you come into this program, I was down so long, it looked like up. And, you do the steps once, or even just get to the 5th step, and you get that freedom, and you think you're 1,000 times better, but really you've only moved 1%, but it feels like 1,000. So you can ride that 1% if you want. But, if anybody's not doing that or not redoing the steps, kind of like I am right now, I got to do it again. I got to get upright, again, and understand what that looks like and what that feels like. And that's who I am. And I am who people tell me I am. And I'm quick to, if I get a compliment, I'm quick to cut myself down. And I got to remember that I'm offending them when I'm cutting myself down, because they just gave me a compliment, and that probably wasn't easy for them. But I'm quick to give compliments. I'm quick to give you the shirt off my back. I'm quick to do all those things. I know that about myself, but I don't believe it a lot. So I'm really grateful to be here tonight. I don't know if that made any sense or not, but I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad I'm on my couch in my cozy pants and not out trying to manage the rainstorm. Let them figure it out. They're just going to be wet, and I don't need to be wet. So thank you, and hopefully see you in about a month or so.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, we'll be there.
I will too.
We're flying from Nashville, so we got our tickets. We'll be there.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely be up there. So I see my friend Julie B is on here. Julie, I love you. Would you share a little bit, please?
I've been sitting here listening to you and identifying a lot with you. I've been in a lot of anger, and went to the meeting Tuesday that's opened up here, and that is my home group, and realized that I had not been putting God in the center of all of this stuff that's going on. We're trying to get out west, and we shouldn't be driving. We're too old to drive, but we're going to go meet some high school friends and go to the rodeo up in Cheyenne. And I just trying to work with this new thing, and you can't just buy tickets, and it's just had me in a fit. And there's a bunch of other stuff going on, but the kids are fine. The grandkids are fine. The great grandkids are fine. But I'm worried about this trip. In fact, I was thinking, I wish the damn thing was over. I'm worried about the trip, and I haven't even packed yet. So I'm just praying that it's going to go okay. And the thing is,
Hey, Julie, we lost you. We lost the volume.
and I don't want to be a nag, and throw that in with talking to ticket vendors. And I've not been in a good place. I really have not been in a good place. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And all I want is out of that story. I want it to all be okay. Just like you said, I just want it to be okay. And for you who wanted to know where he was, Gary is back. He must have talked earlier than I thought he was going to. I didn't expect him for another hour or so.
Oh, it was only an hour maybe.
Oh, well, good. But I'm glad he's home. It's been raining here. And sometimes I worry about tornadoes because they say tornadoes are coming. And I thought, if they come, they're going to come.
I think it's the internet connection.
Life. And it's not been easy. I sat around for a year with COVID on the couch, didn't do anything, didn't exercise, didn't do anything. So now I'm not eating, so I'll look good when I see my friends. Sick puppy. Thank you. I love you, Juanita. It was so good to hear from you. And I'm glad you're in Nashville. I hope we get to see you. We'll be in Colorado about the same time, but that's not going to work this time because we only have 3 or 4 days with our friends, and then we're hitting Denver, and then we're turning around and coming home. So anyway, it's good to see you guys, and thanks.
I love you, Julie. And yeah, hope we'll see about getting up to Indianapolis and visit with you guys. Love you. Safe trips to you. Safe travels. Love you.
It was fun, Juanita. You talked about most of us need look no further for utopia. We have it with us right here and now. And it's really sinking in. And I'm really realizing in the last year how important our inner condition is, us being clean and open, and just having that that real joy comes from within. There was a guy, I was in this sponsee meeting, in this meeting in a halfway house the other night. And this guy, he's probably sober 7 or 8 months. And he goes, man, I'm having, I go to these meetings and I just had the spiritual thing happen with the guys I sponsor, or, say he's having like the spiritual, he feels so light spiritually and feels so good. And then he goes, and then I start messing it up because I start planning my life and start thinking about my life. And I said, man, here's the problem here is that feeling, that part where you feel unified with somebody else and there is no this or there is no other, there is no division between you and them and distinction. That's the best it's ever going to get. You're right there and you're planning a trip to Hawaii and you're going to be all disturbed and shitty in your head in Hawaii. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you think you're going to get out of that? You're planning like what? When you get a little more sober, make a little more money, have your own place, get a little more of this. I was disturbed and I said, what you have, what you're looking for, you're looking away from.
Mhm.
And I realize I do that. We look away from the peace and the joy and the presence of God all the time because I'm looking for that somewhere else all the time. It's just, and it's funny, it's funny how that my mind and my ego will always tell me that when the marriage or the romance thing is worked out and the money thing is worked out, that's when I'll have it. And then I made more money than I ever made the other month. We were having the most successful month ever. And I was so pissy that I was walking around my building just looking for people to pick at. These people who are doing phenomenal, setting records. And I'm just looking for somebody to bitch at about something. And I caught myself before I started bitching. But I was walking around and I was like, oh yeah, you got another day off? I'll be doing this, or and I'm just walking around going, everybody just wants to take advantage of me. Just take. You know what I mean? Like right after I just got off a vacation. That's what was happening in my head at the time. When the rat's away or when the cat's away, the mice will play. I got to go in here and manage it, see where all these people are taking, and they're doing phenomenal. It's ridiculous. And I stopped myself and said, dude, this is you. Your disturbance, looking for an alibi to be disturbed about. That's what it is. You're just disturbed. And it's funny, when I'm disturbed, I'm even more disturbable. And I find more disturbances. I don't want to walk around being an asshole all the time. And it's just, anyway, sorry to go off on that tirade. So we'll now open the meeting up. Let's see, if we go ahead and raise your hand if you want to share, and if not, we'll just if you're feeling bashful, we'll just ask Tate to share. I saw Tate on here tonight. Tate, you still there with us, buddy?
Yeah, I sure am. How you doing, Sam? Juanita, thank you so much. It was really great to see you, and glad you guys had a safe trip. And sorry to hear about your daughter. I had my own issues with that same thing, and there's a lot of health out there, but I'm really glad that I had principles in place to kind of carry me when it was darkest. Alcoholics Anonymous has saved my life in a lot of different ways, and I remember when I was really early on, and I would be, what's it all for? What are we doing? Like all the things. Going, God, what is it I'm to be, or out to, what direction? And I was maybe a couple years sober or something. And all that came back was, because I'd had friends, had some tragedies that had happened and all that, of course. And I thought, God just said, be happy, you got to find happiness, because you can go through life this way or that way. And this way is you're going to be more useful, right? And I thought about, that sounded like, it was also like when I got into AA, I was like, I want to hear that phrase that pays, that thing that's going to flip the switch, that's going to turn all my thinking right and just put me on easy street or whatever. I had no idea that it was a formula. I had no idea that it was a process to go through. I was just listening intently for this one thing. I thought this one thing would maybe make a difference. Just like I thought happiness was some place to go, or that I thought that I was going to get that by having cotton candy, right? It's never been that way for me. Everything, I do think that, God wants me to be as happy. He wants all of us to be as happy and successful as we can be. It's the most attractive thing that we can show others as ex-problem drinkers or members of Al-Anon. And, but for me, that happiness has always come at the expense of any comfort. Like, it's never been things that I like doing. It's like even stuff that I like doing, I have to get talked into doing. Like I'm a loser, and I would rather sit on the couch and not do it. Like that's my default state isn't like, let's go get it, you know, but Alcoholics Anonymous is giving me contrary action. It's giving me a way. And I go, oh my God, that contrary action, it brought me happiness, you know, contrary to what I want. And so like, if I can get out of my own way, geez, I'm a lot better off. And so is everybody around me, you know, and taking that idea out about that I've got some way that I want to direct it or that I think it ought to go, you know. All the time when I try to push that stuff around, I just get heartbreak, you know. And so I just got to avail myself to be a worker amongst worker, as they say, and let it lay out and then be as useful as I can when it comes, you know. There's stuff that's been, you know, I mean, you know, the last couple of years has laid on us all and on myself and relationships and there's stuff that's fractured that I, you know, that isn't going to get better, right? That I say that, right? And then I leave it open and I go, you've got the same job to do, is get as well as you can get and be as helpful as you can to those around you and see how it unfolds, you know, and all you can do is prepare. And that's, I guess, what I just finish on is that, like, you know, I always think about being ship shape, like having my house in order, like, what's that look like? And I think about having, you know, all my lines correct on the boat, you know, as if we're all in our own individual ships. And that when it's sunny out, man, it feels good. It feels like, you know, maybe a pink cloud, or it feels like whatever. Fuck, aren't I glad that the wind stopped blowing, Mom? Pardon my language. But, you know, I can get lulled into a sense of complacency and safety. And there's no more dangerous space for me than when the sun's shining, if I don't have smart feet and smart fingers, if I'm not working on securing my anchor and making sure that I am ship shape, there's storms coming. And my sobriety is just like that. And all this little stuff I've been really fascinating on, you know, hope and faith and prayer, meditation, and these things that are like ethereal pieces of wisp that just kind of, I can barely get my hand on, that I need, that have then become the firmament of my whole sobriety. You know, they've been the firmament of all the things that brought me in and that kept me here. Man, I hear the first person that talks and says, hey man, I was like that too. And then I can see his life is different and I could believe him, and those kinds of things, man. It's just been remarkable to be here, and I'll close there. Thanks so much for your share, Juanita. It's great to hear you. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Tate. Thank you so much. And we have Veronica and then Danny. Veronica?
Hey everyone, Veronica here, alcoholic. Juanita, great to hear what you had to say tonight. And, you know, and Sam, also thank you for, you know, when we get to hear, or when I get to hear Al-Anon's, you know, experienced Al-Anon's, there's something about it that, and by the way, I qualify for both programs. I just happen to have landed in Alcoholics Anonymous first. But, you know, I just want to go, just adopt me and take me home. It's like, it's just something really resonates with Al-Anon. It's that crazy making, you know, stuff. And, oh, hang on a minute, I'm going to move because my dog's just decided to start yapping. But really, I just wanted to keep it brief and say thank you. You know, I'm also a person that, you know, when there's a crisis, I'm the person that gets called on to fix it, sort it out. And I do really well. I get really calm. And then, you know, COVID was a perfect example. When it was going nutso to start with, I was really calm. And then when everyone kind of got into the groove of it, that's when it started going crazy for me. But, you know, I have a friend who also qualifies for both programs, and, you know, she's been encouraging me, and I've spoken to my sponsor about this. We have a plan, a timing plan. We'll see how the plan goes, but in terms of timing, but, you know, and my friend says to me, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life, but Al-Anon saved my sanity. And I went, that sounds, something sounds about right about for that, or with that. And I mean, it's coming for me. It's in the queue, it's in the playlist. And it's because I am that person that, you know, I have an alcoholic in my life that is driving me nuts, and that alcoholic is me. And that's where, I get to hear what you have to say, and I resonate with all of it. I also resonate with what alcoholics, say as well. But it's just such a blessing for me to be able to, first of all, to be able to hear it, and secondly, to now be able to hear it. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks so much.
I love that idea. People are so good at crisis, like we can talk a shooter off a building, but, completely flip our shit in the parking lot at Target. You know what I'm saying? Like, so funny how that works. We have Danny.
Thanks, Sam. Danny, alcoholic. Oh, Juanita, thank you. Geez, as you know, at the start of COVID, I committed myself also to Al-Anon. And if I had any doubt that I belonged or didn't belong to Al-Anon, after listening to you tonight, I'm like, man, I'm solid in that also. I'm sorry to hear about Susanna. Yeah, and my kids are doing well. Sammy's doing really good. And there's a lot that I heard tonight. And one thing, I've been struggling with connecting with the sponsor for quite a while. And I think the reason is because you nailed it. I always get excused. I don't want someone that gives me an excuse. I do have to say something, you really brought down memory lane with the trailer you lived in and the house. And there is one thing, the apples in your yard. And I've taken apples and shared that with my family in Denver and also New Jersey. If the timing ever works out, I'll be able to bring them back to Indo too and share them here. The apples in Juanita and Tom's yard, you guys are awesome. Go visit around October, I guess it is, yeah?
That's right, Danny. And we have apples this year, yeah.
Teaching Tom a lesson, I get caught up in that all the time, needing to teach Angelica a lesson. Just the other night, it was about timing and getting the kids in bed because the next day they want to go camping and this and that. And so how does it manifest? I've got that uneasy feeling throughout the next day. And now my son, Andrew, his last report card was absolutely amazing. And he was really upset. He went down half a grade. He's in honors math or something. I said, well, what do you think it was? And he said something in math. I don't even know what the word is. Okay, this is how well this kid is doing. And so they weren't preparing the camping thing just right. And they, left the house and didn't get some things and da-da-da. And you know what happens is he needs some help. And I say to him, Drew, you were one of the smartest kids I know, but sometimes you could be such a, and I let in on him. And it's just like, what is it about my insistence to kick a horse or kick a dog when it's down? He just needed some help, and here I am, the camping master, having to go in and fix the entire, they had like a dozen friends and this and that. And I'm on it all night long, and geez, I've gotta get it. And who should I call? I know I need to 10-step this and so forth. And sure enough, though, the next day I go down there and go check it out, and they have built a little bridge across the stream. Here I am jumping back and forth all afternoon, helping to set up, and then they had to go up a thing that cut steps out, to get up, and they got this and they got that. And I'm like, where was God with that? God is taking care of that. And I'm up the night before wondering, geez, did I screw it? How did that? Bah, 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 bah. God is going to handle it just fine. Just fine. And, Juana, I just told this story at the last face-to-face meeting I was on Bali. I'm back up in Manado now. And that, Tom had come home and you're on the couch, you're crying. And he says, well, what is it? And he says, you just realize that God wants it all. He wants it all. And, it's common for us but not that. I've got to control that. I've got to do this part. Don't I need to do that? And I love the part where you said, I can't pray myself into right thinking. And when I get myself into that state of mind, but there is often times where that state of mind, I'm in that state of mind, but that God comes in and says, maybe some meditation might help right now. And then Danny has a choice: follow God's will or get up and go out and get quiet. And sometimes that quiet could be just not saying anything. And sometimes that quiet, because I'm in such a state of flux, I got to get out. I got to take 20 minutes and then let it work through, because it always comes back to me. I know what my 10th step is on that thing with Andrew. Well, what happened? I didn't trust God. It always comes down to that, whether it's fear, whether it's whatever it is. I didn't trust God. The last thing I like to say that is super helpful, because I really have a heart, throughout this whole COVID thing in the business and we're coming down. I had an account that I didn't even know about. And I said to my accountant 10 years ago, just keep putting rainy money away. And sure enough, it came to fruition. And we're like, well, we're going to be set throughout this whole COVID. Well, now Indonesia's going through another red zone, and God only knows when some business is going to come back and this and that. It ain't easy. The decisions, but again, bringing God into these decisions. And I realized yesterday, Angelique and I, we're not praying enough together about the decisions we need to make. And you hit it on the head. Just keep chipping away. Just one thing at a time. I want to make it into this huge, colossal thing that I've got to figure it all out. It's just that one chip away. So, thank you.
Love you, Danny.
Thank you, Danny. Well, we did it. Juanita, you did it. We got a meeting, another emotional sobriety workshop in the books, right?
God did it.
Yeah.
God did it. Because let me tell you,
Amen.
when I've been not thinking about this all day. I've been thinking about not thinking about this all day long. It's like I did not want to do it, man, because I didn't want to show up and tell the truth.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
And my picker gets really good. I feel like I got that, those people who had those sticks who used to get water, they look over water. Like I'll get this picker for people sometimes. They'll just keep happening and like vibrating over that person's head when I'm thinking about it. It's funny, I started this meeting a long time ago with the guys that I sponsor, and I thought it was just for that. And then I thought that I was doing this. It was just a funny, interesting little thing that we were doing. And it wasn't funny, but it was funny sometimes, but it was a different kind of a little workshop. And I never thought that would turn into what this has turned into, the way that God uses different things for different people, and it's just fun to see how we never know. One of the big themes that we keep coming up against all the time is dropping the story that we think we know what just happened or what's happening, dropping that story and being open and available for what's in front of us. Because it can either be a miracle or a catastrophe in a split second, and it's just a switch in the mind. That's what meditation helps me so much with that.
And Sam, the truth is that some of the most horrible things that I've ever had to live through have turned out to be the most incredible blessings. They really have. They have been incredible blessings, and I would not have expected it.
Mm-hmm. And some of the biggest vacations I look forward to plan were the biggest pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. Anyway, all right. Well, much love. Do you have anything else you want to share before we end?
No, man. It's there. There it is.
We'll go to our inner room and say the Lord's Prayer for all who care to join us. All right. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sam. Thanks, Juanita.
You guys.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
And
Juanita.
thanks again,
Tthank
Sam.
you.
and
Thank you,
Juanita.
Juanita. Love you.
Have a good night.
Thank you,
Bye
Sam.
for now.
Thanks,
you all.
everybody.
Good to see you,
Sam.
Kate. Good to see you,
Juanita.
Dave.
Thanks,
Thank
Juanita.
you.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Juanita.
Juanita. Thanks.
Sam, it's called a witching stick.
Oh,